Okay, thank you very much, Charlie and Jill, for your valuable introduction. So in this way, the humankind has gotten at last the ultimate method of key distribution, which can never be eavesdropped by any means. It is now called quantum key distribution, or for short, QKD. So the key is a series of random numbers and generated by photon transmission and classical communications for the key distillation. When the key is prepared, as long as the message to be sent and used only once, then this scheme can be mathematically proven to be completely secure. So it is unbreakable by any means that can occur even in future. So this is quantum cryptography. And the security of QKD is based not on the difficulty of mathematical problems, but on laws of physics. So each bit of key information is carried by a single photon, which is the elementary particle of light, which cannot be divided further. So these days, we can transmit a single photon through an optical fiber over the city-scale distance and can detect one by a single photon detector. So we encode the key information 0 and 1 by modulating the photon path envelope. So let us see a video to understand the basic mechanism of QKD.
In our QKD system, a photon is prepared in a pulse envelope whose length is about 1 centimeter, confined in the optical fiber. So it is very thin as a strand of hair. This photon first passes through an optical circuit with a delay line like this, and its pulse envelope is turned into a double pulse envelope separated by 10 centimeters. A single photon exists in this pair of separated double pulses. This photon then enters into an optical modulator, and its pulse envelope is further modified according to the bit information. The 0 is encoded into the in-phase pulse pair, and the 1 into the out-of-phase pulse pair. The modulated photon is sent into a fiber channel. This pair format allows us to transmit photons over a longer distance, because two pulses experience the same disturbances in the fiber channel, and such disturbances can be cancelled out on the receiver side. To detect eavesdropping attacks, we need to prepare another set of different pulse envelopes. In the second set, the 0 and 1 are encoded into the single pulses located in the front and rear positions respectively. This second set is called Z basis, while the first set is called X basis. So, there are a total of 4 kinds of pulse envelopes: X0, X1, Z0, and Z1. They are randomly selected according to random number data, then imprinted into single photons, and finally transmitted into the channel. Thus, random number data are shared by Alice and Bob. Now, the laws of quantum mechanics come into play. X basis and Z basis have non-zero overlap with each other. Photons in such overlapped pulses cannot be discriminated perfectly, even in principle. In the Z basis alone, Z0 and Z1 themselves have no overlap with each other, and hence can be discriminated perfectly. This is true for X0 and X1 as well. But when these 4 kinds of pulses are shuffled and randomly generated, they cannot be discriminated perfectly. This is the uncertainty principle of quantum mechanics. These overlapped photon pulses cannot be cloned without errors, and this effect is referred to as the no-cloning principle. Due to this property, any eavesdropping attack inevitably induces a change of the original envelope. Actually, an X basis pulse turns into a Z basis pulse, and vice versa. Alice and Bob can detect this change by comparing a part of transmitted and received bit signals, and can know how many bits may have been eavesdropped. So, they distill the secret keys by pruning a certain amount of shared bits by using the techniques of privacy amplification. After the secret keys are distilled and shared, the keys are used as a one-time pad. The combination of QKD and one-time pad represents the so-called quantum cryptographic system. Unlike conventional schemes, the quantum cryptographic system will never be threatened by any future computer or hacking technology.
Okay, we are prepared to see state-of-the-art QKD systems. Today we'd like to show two QKD systems developed by NEC and Toshiba. So let me invite Mr. A. Shimamura of NEC. He is talking on the latest model of QKD systems.
Thank you. Thank you. Good morning, everyone, and thanks a lot for coming. I'm Shimamura from NEC, and I'm going to give an introduction to our QKD-AES hybrid system and its ongoing field testing. We, NEC, have been developing QKD technologies for more than a decade, having been greatly supported by the NICT commissioned research program. This summer, actually this middle of July, we have eventually brought our QKD system outside the lab and deployed it in our facility called Cybersecurity Factory for field testing. It's not a factory, actually, and there, cybersecurity experts are providing services like 24/7 network monitoring, cyber incident analysis, as well as gathering up-to-date cyber intelligence. The information handled there is sensitive in its nature, so the operations are carried out in restricted areas protected by surveillance cameras and biometric authentication. There, aiming for realizing protection of such critical data communication with our system, we are working on long-run tests pursuing quality assurance and also planning to evaluate the security of our system implementation. Actually, this is a much more involved task, since the precision and stability requirements for QKD devices are much more stringent than conventional communication systems. So the devices must be carefully tested and monitored. And while QKD is theoretically secure, an agreed standard criteria for security certification for an actually implemented system are yet to be established. We hope to provide useful data to the community from this field test as the result of our research activity. In our actual implementation, data layer encryptors based on commonly used symmetric cipher, AES, are put on our QKD platform. However, the seed keys for the AES are frequently refreshed by the key supply from the QKD. And we are currently using 100 megabps model of this data layer encryptor product from NEC, but the highest end model provides as fast as 10 gigabps performance. Thus, the system brings security and fast data communication at the same time. Here, let us show a video on this system by my colleague Yoshino for a bit more detail. Thank you.
皆さんこんにちは。 NEC 中央研究所の吉野です。こちらが NEC の QKD システムの最新モデルになります。 1.25GHz で動作し、現在はユーザー実証試験中です。
This is the transmitter, Alice. And this is the receiver, Bob. They are connected by two fibers. One is the quantum channel to transmit photons, and the other is the authenticated public channel to exchange information for key distillation processing. The system is assembled into a standard 19-inch rack based on the blade architecture. All the functions for QKD are divided into each blade like this. This blade is the optical transmitter, in which random number data are encoded into attenuated laser pulses through an optical encoder circuit with modulators. This optical transmitter blade supports a single quantum channel at a clock rate as fast as 1.25 GHz. By adding optical transmitter blades one by one, we can multiplex the quantum channel and can increase the key generation rate. This blade is the key distillation engine, which is dedicated hardware and can process up to 8 wavelength division multiplexed QKD channels, whose combined throughput amounts to a data rate of 50 gigabits per second. This is the receiver system. Photons enter into this blade of the optical decoder. In this blade, a received photon is directed into one of the 4 output ports of the optical decoder, according to the photon's pulse envelope. The 4 output ports are connected to 4 photon detectors right here. The received photon is finally detected by one of them. The detector device itself is an avalanche photodiode, whose size is only 5 millimeters. But the photon detector also contains a readout circuit and, as a result, is this big. Information about which detector unit has fired, as well as its click time, tells us which basis is chosen, X or Z, and which bit is obtained, 0 or 1. Part of the detected signals are then used to evaluate the bit error rate to detect eavesdropping attacks. The basis and bit values are sent into the key distillation blade. Then, appropriate error correction and privacy amplification are carried out, and the secure keys are finally extracted. The secure keys are then sent to the key management agent right here. This agent stores the key files and supplies them in an appropriate format to application devices. The key management agent also monitors and records the bit error rates and sends them to the key management server. Now, you can see the key management server's monitor, which shows normal operation as expected. But when the channel is tapped, the bit error rate increases immediately. The key management server then raises the alarm. The QKD system assumes that an eavesdropping attack has been made and stops the key generation. A probing unit will soon be activated to see what has actually occurred. If the cause is a simple failure like fiber disconnection or an optical tapping attack, it can be identified by this probing. Then, after the operators resolve the problem, QKD operations will be able to start again. If it were due to a more sophisticated eavesdropping attack, standard probing methods will not work. When the bit error rate does not decrease below the threshold, we have to switch to another spare fiber or another QKD link. This is the console unit to set up and shut down the QKD system. Uninterruptible power supplies are installed at the bottom of the rack, making the QKD system resistant to sudden power loss. In this rack, a data layer encryptor is also installed right here for high-speed encryption. This is actually an NEC commercial product named ComCipher and is based on the symmetric cipher AES. The secure key is supplied from the key management system and is used to enhance the security of the data layer encryptor. This integrated system, a so-called QKD-AES hybrid system, is now operating for a field test in our core facility for counter-cyber attack activities.
以上 NEC の QKD システムの概要をご覧いただきました。私たちは今後も QKD システムの性能向上、小型化、低コスト化を目指して研究開発を続けていきます。
Okay, thank you very much, Shimamura-san and Yoshino-san. Let us next invite Dr. Andrew Shields of Toshiba. He is talking on the latest status of their technology.
Well, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's a pleasure to be here and tell you about Toshiba's activity in quantum key distribution. And this morning I'd like to tell you about two things. So first of all, the contribution of our R&D team to the Secure Photonic Network project that's coordinated by NICT and that have set up this Tokyo QKD network. And then secondly, about the work of one of our business groups on applying this technology to securing genome data. So about the Toshiba technology, first of all, as you can see here, we've brought a Toshiba QKD system onto the stage, which we'll be using later on. But I'd like to tell you a little bit about the technology. It's based on phase encoding, very much like in the video that Masahide showed earlier. And some of the technologies that we've developed are, first of all, a very high-speed single-photon detector that we call the self-differencing avalanche photodiode. And that's able to detect photons at very high rates, up to 1 billion photons per second, and allows us to achieve very high secure key rates in QKD of, for example, 2.38 megabit per second over a 35-kilometer fiber. Then secondly, we have introduced a technology called active stabilization, and this is a system which continuously monitors and adjusts the photon polarization and phase arriving at the receiver, so to keep it constant as a function of time, and this allows the system to operate continuously. And thirdly, we have a variant of the Bennett and Brassard 1984 protocol, and this allows us to achieve very high security levels, even at these very high megabit per second bit rates. So for the Secure Photonic Network project, we've developed a new QKD prototype, and this is arguably the most secure implementation of QKD to date. Let me tell you about some of the new technologies that we've introduced. So recently there have been many reports of different types of attack on QKD system. And in this prototype, we've introduced some countermeasures against these attacks. So against, for instance, the Trojan horse attack, the APD blinding attack, and the time shift attack. And one of my colleagues will present more details about that later in the QCrypt conference. Second, we've introduced systems which monitor the status of some of the vital components within the system, such as the lasers, the modulators, and the detectors. And this is also very important because if one of these components fails, that can also affect the security of the system too. Then thirdly, we've introduced systems which allows the QKD system to auto-start. And this means that it no longer has to be operated by an expert, but in fact can be operated by anyone. So that's a good advance. And finally, we've made some improvements to the active stabilization routine used by the system. And this means that it operates in the variable weather conditions which we found during previous field trials here in Tokyo. And in fact, you can see from this data taken in the lab here, we have around a factor of 2 improvement in the phase stability of the system using this new routine. So during this year, we've been making some field trials of this system in the NICT fiber network. And in particular, we've been operating the system over a 45-kilometer link between Otemachi, very close to where we are at the minute, actually, and Kogane, where the NICT headquarters are. This is over a 45-kilometer fiber with a loss of 14.5 dB. And we find, in fact, that these field trials are quite a tough test of the QKD system, because here in Tokyo, much of the fiber is run in overhead poles, and so is subjected to all sorts of weather. And in fact, we find during previous field trials that the QKD system can be a very efficient monitor of the weather here in Tokyo, as well as allowing secure communications. We've seen that the bit rate can become very unstable when there are high winds here in Tokyo during a typhoon, for example. So because of this, we tried to make some improvements to the active stabilization system to get rid of these fluctuations. And here now we show some field trial results from the Gen 3 system with improved security, usability, and stability, measured over a 1-month period. And during this field trial, you can see that we have a continuous and very stable operation with an average secure bit rate of 223 kilobits per second. And if you look at the figure in the bottom right-hand corner, you can see that the secure bit rate for the Gen 3 system is almost equal to that of the Gen 2 system, despite these extra security countermeasures that we've introduced. But notice in particular that the stability in the secure bit rate is much better than it was previously, and this is thanks to the improvements to the active stabilization routine. In fact, the standard deviation in the secure bit rate is around 1/4 of that it was for the Gen 2 system. So before showing you the video, let me just mention a few of the other things that we're working on. We're very interested in applying QKD to ordinary telecom networks because we see that as a way of really expanding the applicability of the technology and allowing it to be used by a much wider range of people. And later on today, my colleague Bernd Frohlich will talk about applying QKD to ordinary GPON networks, where we've seen that we're able to operate, we're able to send QKD and GPON signals along the same optical fibers. Then we're also working on technology to go beyond these trusted node networks that we're describing here today to make entanglement-based type quantum communication networks. And on Thursday, my colleague Christiana Varnava will talk about work to make a semiconductor-based quantum relay. So now let me tell you a little about the work of our business groups on developing applications for this technology. And to do that, I'm going to show you a video that they've prepared. And it should have sound, but it's not playing at the minute. Oh, there we go.
Quantum cryptography will be very important, where we have to keep information confidential for several years, such as for the encryption of genome or other medical data.
Toshiba has been using the Japonica array to provide genome analysis services since December 2014. The Japonica array is an analytical tool for the Japanese genome developed by the Tohoku University Tohoku Medical Megabank Organization. It can decode genetic information particular to the Japanese in a short time and at a low cost. Quantum cryptographic communication protects extremely personal genome data. This is on the verge of being realized.
We'll begin a service on the 31st of August to transmit and receive genomic data using Toshiba technology.
Verification testing will send genome analysis data between 2 locations separated by 7 kilometers using a quantum code.
Genomic data is one example, but in fact long-term security is very important for many aspects of corporate and government communications.
For public agencies and financial institutions using confidential information and personal data, this is the ultimate communications technology to protect security long-term. A safer and more secure society awaits us.
Well, as the technology gets cheaper, we can expect a wide range of applications. These new technologies will greatly reduce the cost of quantum cryptography and make it accessible to a wide range of users, starting with enterprises like offices, hospitals, and banks, and eventually extending to residential users.
New value through Toshiba's quantum cryptographic communication system to a brighter future. Lifenology to provide technology matched to people's daily lives.
It will enhance trust in network-based services and commerce, and will promote Toshiba's vision of a safe, secure, and comfortable society.
So that's the brief summary of Toshiba's QKD technology, and thank you very much for your attention.
Okay, thank you, Andrew. Now we move on to network application of QKD. In 2010, we have constructed the Tokyo QKD network. So it consists of 5 nodes and connected by 6 QKD links. There are 3 different QKD schemes. One is BB84 by NEC and Toshiba. Another is continuous variable QKD by Gakushuin University and SecureNet. The other is DPS QKD by NTT. Recently, we also introduced a new system of quantum stream cipher by Tohoku University and is operating now. And these QKD systems form point-to-point QKD links. And each link generates the secure key in its own way. The key is then pushed up to the key management agent, KMA, which is located at each site and works as a trusted node. These KMAs are connected by classical authenticated channels constituting the key management layer, and the key is relayed by one-time path capsulation via the KMAs. And in this layer, key management server is also located, gathers the link information from the KMAs, and organizes the routing table and provisions the secure path to KMAs. To support the variety of applications, we also introduced Key Supply Agent, KSA, in which all the necessary application interfaces are implemented. And the 2 sets of KMAs and KSAs are brought onto the stage today, mounted in the rack here and there. And these systems can connect the different QKD systems into a network. This layer stack constitutes the QKD platform, and application layer is laid on it, supplied with the secure key. And the key from the QKD platform can be used for various applications. So today we present 2 examples of them. One is smartphone. Smartphone communications are realized not only by wireless links, but also by fiber network supplied by various vendors. Wireless network is usually encrypted. However, in most fiber network, data from smartphone are not always encrypted. So Mitsubishi Electric Corporation developed one-time path smartphone. Key is supplied from the QKD platform to the smartphone, and this system can fully encrypt data by one-time path end-to-end. So a single downloading to a 2 GB SD card supports 10-day continuous conversation by one-time path. So please visit the exhibition site in the next room for detail. NEC developed QKD Enhanced Multi-User Smartphone Network. Application layer consists of the star type network, and session initiation protocol server is located at the center node, and each client shares the key with the ship server. And in this network-centric architecture allows the efficient key management and key exchange for the symmetric key cipher, AES. And this smartphone network system is actually set up on the stage today and will be used in the next Skit, which is about the other application example, medical record system. The scheme is as follows. There are medical examination center and a hospital, and the confidential data should be transmitted from the data server to the service terminal and be accessed by the authenticated users securely. So we introduce the QKD platform and generate 3 kinds of keys. One is data encryption key, and the others are a set of access key. So each of data file is encrypted by an access key, and then encrypted data files are further doubly encrypted by the data encryption key by one-time path and sent to the hospital. In the hospital, a doctor and a patient receive their access keys via the Wegmann-Carter authentication, and they carry these keys with their smartphones. In the clinic, a doctor can access the basic information in the medical records by using his access key. However, to get the confidential data about the patient, he needs to get consent from the patient. So the patient uploads his access key, and they can freely access all the data. So let us see a real operation of this system on the stage.
Now, we ask Professor Prassard to play the role of a medical doctor. Dr. Prassard, please enter the stage.
Okay, Jill. Thank you. Looks good. Are you ready?
Thank you.
Okay. This is our key management agent in which the secure keys are stored. And the keys have already been sent to the medical record system. So when you come to work, you first go to the front desk to download your access key to your smartphone.
Okay, here comes my patient list for today. How do I proceed?
Okay, so please put your smartphone on the reader.
Yes.
Okay, click the key download button.
Key download.
Okay, input your password and download button.
There.
Okay, now smartphone communicating with the server, and please push the OK button.
OK here.
Okay, now smartphone is authenticated. Key is downloading. Okay, now your smartphone is authenticated and key is downloaded.
Very good.
So you are ready to start the day in the clinic.
All right, so today's first patient is Charles Bennett. So I click the view button to see the file. How old is he? Well, no, this file, I don't have the data here because I need to upload the access key. For this, I put my smartphone on the device, on the reader. You know, this system uses a Wegman-Carter authentication with QKD. That's very secure. Now I click the doctor button. Good. Enter my password. Click upload. Now I have to click OK on the phone, which will transfer my key. I'm authenticated. Now the key is uploading. And all right, done. At this point, now I see the file. Now I see the file. Aha! So I can see that he's older than me. Good. All right. So, Mr. Bennett, please come in.
Good morning.
Oh, how are you?
Well, I'm fine as far as I know, but is there anything I should know about those tests you ran last week?
Well, let me look. It seems you have a very unusual condition, which, depending on how you look at it, might be good news or bad news.
Oh, I'm in terrible suspense. What's the good news?
Well, people with this condition typically live to be over 100 years old.
Hey, that's not bad. But what's the bad news?
Well, the same condition causes the patient to sleep most of the time during their later years. So what we call the awake life expectancy might be shorter than normal.
So I would miss a lot of stuff that's happening, but I might still be around maybe 40, 50 years from now.
That's right.
Oh.
But another part of the downside is that people with this condition tend to outlive their friends and even their children, and a lot of people don't like that, unless you have grandchildren.
Oh, I've got 7 grandchildren. So being around to see them make the same mistakes I did, that would be fun. And I might even live long enough to see a working quantum computer. I'll take it.
I was not giving you a choice. It was just a prognosis.
Oh.
But there's another thing I want to talk to you about. This is a very unusual condition. And I would like your authorization to access your genetic data for purpose of identifying which genes are to be responsible for this condition. And I could present the results at a conference later this year. They might even call it Brassard syndrome.
What about Bennett syndrome?
That's not possible. Syndrome was always called after the doctor, not the patient.
Oh.
But since this is a non-therapeutic use of your private medical information, it requires your explicit authorization.
Sure. I have nothing to hide, and I'm probably going to outlive you anyway, so go for it.
Well, we need more than a verbal agreement. If you agree, can you enter, please, your access key to sign the official consent form?
Sure, I already downloaded my access key at the reception desk.
Very well. Then could you put your device on the reader.
Oh, like this?
Yeah, that's right. Mm-hmm. Okay. You know, this thing is really, really secure. It's based on QKD.
Oh, yes, yes.
Okay. So let me click on the patient button. And then I input my password. Good. Push unload. And now you have to push the OK button to give me your permission. Very good.
All right. So is it secure?
Yes, yes. As I told you, it's based on QKD. Can it be more secure?
Yes.
That's right. So thank you, Mr. Bennett. Now let me check with the medical data center on your genomic data.
Oh, is that my phone? Moshi Moshi, Medical Data Center.
This is Dr. Brassard speaking from the NII Hospital.
Ah, Dr. Brassard, this is Andrew Shields.
Oh, hi, Andrew. I want to ask you for access to the genomic data of Mr. Charlie Bennett. I would like to include them in a study for an upcoming conference. I've got his consent for this.
Ah, great. Okay, in that case, please have him sign the electronic consent form and send it to us using our new security technology. It's called QKD.
Ooh.
Yes. In fact, even our conversation today is encrypted using QKD.
Nice. All right, so we're about to do that, but actually you probably know that I am an early adopter of QKD.
Well, yes, of course you are. After all, you're the one that introduced it to us. Bye now.
Bye-bye. Very well, so now I can have the consent form here. Okay. So now, Mr. Bennett, would you please read and sign this electronic consent form for non-therapeutic use of your medical data? Mr. Bennett, if you agree, will you please sign this form?
Yes. With this thing here, yes.
No, here.
Oh, okay. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. But I must have been asleep.
I think so. Yeah, I told you it would happen.
Yeah. Well, I had a really interesting dream, though.
Oh.
I dreamed that it was 2044, and it was the 50th anniversary of Shor's algorithm that made so much interest in quantum computing, and and they had a quantum computer there. And it was the size of a room. It made a lot of noise.
Really?
So I asked them, what do they use it for?
Well, let me guess. They were using it for factoring big numbers and breaking codes.
Well, that's what I thought. But they said no, they didn't use it for that anymore,
really? Because
now that they had the global worldwide QKD system, they didn't need the old-fashioned encryption.
Oh.
So they use it for chemical calculations and computational physics.
Good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Pastor, Dr. Bennett, and Dr. Sis for your great performance. Let us give them a big hand.